Hello, this is High Templar with my new Total War Warhammer Mechanics video, and today we'll be talking about the new Lore of Shadows that we just got with the Realm of the Wood Elf DLC, one of the most expected add-ons for the Total War Warhammer. So let's just jump quickly, and I've done quite many tests as I promised, and I will be covering Lore of Shadows first, and the Lore of Life I will be covering in Saturday tops, so max in 2 days. But let's just go through the Lore of Shadows first. I did a lot of tests, so be prepared for this to be at least 15 minutes. Melkoth Mystifying Miasma is a basic spell, your basic direct damage, Pursman Buna basically. For 11 seconds it's damaging a unit, like it says here, draining it. An overcasted version just does more damage. It's not actually area of effect, so yeah, well, we shall see. But the cost, no overcasted is 5 only, overcasted is 10, so be mindful of that. Then we have Enfeeblement Foe. It's a hex, only 24 seconds, on doing a massive effect of minus 30 free melee attack and defense, but only for 24 seconds. 10 mana, which is, somewhat steep. Overcasted version costs only 13, but it lasts for 48 seconds, but it's not area of effect. So obviously it only makes sense to use overcasted version, which in previous example, well, I wouldn't. And then you have quite a long debuff, quite a powerful debuff, only on single unit. Is a single unit worth to spend 30 mana just to make it less effective? In most cases I would say no. They are... well, this is certainly no Ichi. Absolutely not. So it will not turn the tide of the battle. It is quite costly. It is a very nice debuff, don't get me wrong, but I don't feel it will be that useful unless you are fighting against one powerful foe who just needs to be brought down, maybe. Then we have the Penumbran Pendulum, which is a wind spell, and its duration is 3 seconds. And this video that you can see right now doesn't really show you its strength. Overcasted version has only extend range. Non-overcasted costs only 13 mana, which is not that much for what it does. And it does incredible damage. And I will talk about that. Overcasted version is very situational, but this one is pretty good. It's pretty good. Then we have a Withering. The Withering only affects single target for 31 seconds, decrease armor by 15 and leadership by 8. For 13 mana, no. Overcasted version, however, has a huge area of effect, but price tag is 16. It's making it slightly more powerful. However, they are certainly better spells. Actually, you certainly won't be seeing me using it. I don't like it. Then we have a infamous Pit of Shades. Pit of Shades is vortex spells, duration for 40 seconds, and it actually stays in one place. And the casting range is actually 200 meters, which is a very nice range for a vortex spell. And we'll just have to see how powerful is it. You can see that normal version power cost is 14, and overcasted version, who does more armor piercing damage, is 17. So it is quite a cheap vortex, similar like the Purple Sun. Does probably overcasted a lot of armor piercing damage, and it stays in one place. Possibly one of the better spells that we have so far, except for the Pendulum. And finally we have Occam's Mind Razor. So, well, there is a Geek Pan there, but never mind that. So, 30 seconds it lasts. It gives augment to a single ally, giving massive boost to weapons damage and armor piercing damage, only for half a minute. It would be useful in certain situations, like just after the charge, when this damage will be so massive that it would possibly break the enemy unit, and after the charge your guys will be higher melee attack. So in that situation most of those hits would actually, hit. So the white formation after the charge or another cast on the high melee attack unit, you will get most of that. Overcasted version, however, adds quite huge area of effect. Unfortunately, you can also see the price tag. 21 mana. I mean, normal version is 18. So it's certainly not worth to cast it at all. But 21 mana to add such a massive boost to your troops for half a minute is actually something you might consider. Still, sneaky stabbing is better in most cases. I mean, yes, I know, it's not better every time, it is better in most cases. But if you cast this spell in the proper moment, you might annihilate your enemy pretty quickly indeed. However, there is also a price tag for the multiplayer. Quite unfortunately, this spell costs 213. Sorry, this is Speed of Shades. Occam's Mind Razor, 226. So, very expensive indeed for questionable. I mean, it cost is just immense cost. The Pit of Shades, very nice spell, but it costs 225. Will make your wizard very expensive indeed. He has a nice constant buff for the speed. That's very nice indeed. Normal stuff. This guy, if you don't mount it, 400. So if you give him only Pitch of Shades, 700 is pretty okay. However, you have a very nice spells. You can mount him on a Warhorse, which will give him a speed that he needs. But that's not necessary actually. I usually use no mounts. Usually. And then the Pendulum. The Pendulum costs only 144. So it is steep, but for what it does is pretty good. And Feeling Foe, as I've mentioned before, very situational. And Melkon Mystifying Miasma is... I wouldn't say it's worth it. The speed debuff is useful in some situations, and I will show you why and when. So let's go to the testing. And we will start with the Pendulum, because it's kind of the most interesting one. So here we'll be fighting against 4 Greatswords. And on our side of the army will be only Halberds. Halberds, very good against large units. Will do decent against Greatswords, because, armor. They are armor piercing in fact, but just look at that. They don't have charged defense versus normal, they only have charged defense versus all. They only do 27 damage indeed, of which 19 is armor piercing, which is very nice. They only have 30 armor, which won't be an issue with the Greatswords, but the stats are 25 and 42, compared to the Greatswords, who deals 23 armor piercing damage, in total 32 actually, but additional bonus versus infantry, 8. So that's pretty massive. And melee attack and defense 30 with a charge bonus of 18. Those guys will be mopping up those halberds pretty fast. Or will they? Let's just see what will happen here. So we have a hit. And on the hit itself you can see that pretty minimal damage to the greatswords. My halberds, however, are dropping quite substantially, right? So what will happen right now? You can see those two lines, they are very helpful. I haven't seen them till later on. Go away. And let's see that in the slow motion. Come on. You can see the shadowy pendulum and the flying greatswords. On that single spell, that's non-overcasted version, because, you know, overcasted it's pointless, this spell dealt 6400 damage, and it will be consistently dealing 6400 damage to the armored units. To unarmored, it will be about 7800. So more, but not significantly more. It is quite surgical, as you can see from what happened here. As you can see, my guys didn't took more damage than they already had. And those guys, the greatswords, did pretty huge damage. I mean, they were dealt pretty huge damage. And obviously we will cast it once more and once more. I am engaging that general because he was really annoying me with massacring this unit of halberds. And that was another spell on the fast forward. And the greatswords, all of them. Look here. See what happened here. I've had these halberds here, and that was pretty surgical. I casted a spell, and it took everything but those greatswords, but not my halberds, and everything in this line, and none of my guys. I mean, okay, it slightly harassed this unit, but it was already damaged from the Arc Lector, as I've mentioned before. So, sorry about that. It only lost 6 men. And this unit of halberds did also pretty well. So, how effective is that spell? 13 mana. We are already winning that battle. I mean, it's already over, but the third pendulum, in the total cost of 39 mana, and this is all over. And my guys, as you can see, my guys do have still some life. So the Great Wizard killed only 56 of those guys. Mostly the damage was done to the health, not actually, you know, them dying. And we've won that. And you would really strive to find buffing spells that will do what that spells did. So win you that battle, that particular battle. Is the pendulum more powerful than Winds of Death? Well, if you are familiar with my channel, I did use Winds of Death on occasion in the multiplayer matches, just for fun really. They are overpowered like hell. And Just wanted to have a comparison. So the Pendulum, single damage, around 6400, 78 to unarmored units. So it actually does more damage to unarmored units than armored, which is, you know, against beliefs of some people. Now I am casting Winds of Death. Winds of Death, when Pendulum I would cast here, because Pendulum actually swings a bit to the back, in the direction of a caster. Winds of Death you are casting straight away in this line. And this is a perfect cast for the Winds of Death. Let's just watch that carnage. Come on, cast it already. And here we have damage in the area of 1800, but more is possible, quite obviously. And we will follow the Winds of Death. As you can see, my spears, I am on purpose putting spears in here, so if I mismanage it a bit, like I did here, it will be only skeleton spears that will suffer, and only, you know, it's not really something I'm worried about. Although yes, they did suffer quite a bit, but as you can see, we still have a lot of them, and they still have a lot of health, which cannot be said about the greatswords. So we dealt in the area of 20,000 damage, and this is exactly the width of the length of the spell, basically. So 3 units of greatswords, and we are dealing, like I've mentioned before, around 20,000 damage in the overcasted version of the Winds of Death, which cost 2800. 28 mana. So quite nice, quite nice. And before you can say that the Wind of Death is actually not so good against the unarmored units, because you've seen a video somewhere on the internet that it's not dealing too much damage to the light units. Well, let's just see that. You cannot go much lighter than Empire Spears, but you can go Angor, and the Angor will probably be better off because they are much deeper formation. Those guys are very disciplined. But yeah, the same story here. And yes, I will go back to the Law of Shadows. I just wanted for you to have a comparison when we will be going to the Pendulum. And there you go. Less damage? No, the same damage. It does the same damage to the spears. It destroyed them completely. That game is over. So let's see other uses of the shadow magic. Yes, I will finish on the siege scenario. So let's see similar battle when we are actually facing, you know, something more sturdy than spears. I actually by mistake clicked those guys. I wanted to click spears, but they are pretty light. And that will be not very well casted Pendulum, because that was actually first Pendulum that I did cast. So you can see there will be a problem there. Like, I imagine it will be more similar to the Winds of Death when it's much more surgical and gone slightly, you know, way to the right with this spell. But it dealt pretty nice damage to those halberds, those and those, in the area of 7,000, even though that wasn't a perfect cast. And now we have a Pit of Shadows, which is Pit of Shades, sorry, which is very, very nice looking spell. But does it do a lot? Well, if you are using it like that, it won't. It is a spell, you cannot run away from it, but as you can see, those halberd units that was previously not hit by anything else, they just charged into the fight, got pretty nice damage. 3000 is not that much, right? No, it's not. It certainly is not that much. We have one more cast here, and this will be another pendulum. I was, as I've mentioned, learning how to use that. Right now you can see that I went way too far, but I did eliminate this unit and this unit of halberds with this single spell. That unit was not used by the pendulum. This is 26 mana used, and not very efficiently, to take out those two units. So it is effective. It is really effective, the pendulum. Let's maybe see some more useful uses of other spells, shall we? So yeah. So we have we will be testing Miasma and the Pit of Shades in more depth. And I will probably test the buffing spells also, but I just wanted to have... I do it a lot of videos about the damaging spells, so I just wanted to carry that and see what will happen. So this is Spears versus Spears, and as you can see I'm preparing for the pendulum. This one will be rather well casted, as you can see, because that was my third try on using that. So as you can see, enormous damage those spears. Those spears are half to the life, and there is all four of them being targeted, whereas mine are not targeted at all. And then we have Miasma. Miasma on the basic spell is not that effective at all. It will deal about 1100. I've seen tests going from 1000 to 1200, but in general, as you can see, it didn't do much. And then finally the Shadow Vortex on those two units, and they cannot run away, and it broke them completely, although they were damaged pretty much, and we've got only around 5000 health damage to those guys here. And the last spell would be probably another Pit of Shades, just to finish off the stragglers, although I don't exactly remember. No, it was actually Miasma again, and it already ended, dealing 1200 damage from my notes. So nothing very spectacular here. And another Miasma, just to finish them off. That was not very entertaining, I know. Let's wait for the last one. For the last one, I have you a unit of Empire Knights that will be supporting those spears. So one-on-one, this is pretty much a done deal, very fast indeed. We have... I've obviously put one unit here just to shield against the knights, and let's just see what will happen here. So the knights are preparing. I am adjusting my guys, which will obviously draw knights because they want to hit into unbraced units, and they charged, and I casted a spell on them. The Miasma actually is additionally debuffing the units 24% speed, which is pretty substantial for charging knights. Their charge will be much weaker, and obviously they will be standing against spirits who are mostly already braced, mostly. So let us just see what will happen here. Now the Miasma will take few seconds to deal its damage, but as you can see, and that will work for every cavalry, And I mean for every cavalry, it will be pretty substantial damage. As you can see, those guys melted 2/3, I mean 1/3 of the health for those Empire Knights. All the way from 55 to 36. This is, and I've been seeing around 1800 to 2100 health taken by the Miasma Overcasted. And this is non-armor piercing version. So if you cast it on a cav unit that is not armored, it will be even more disastrous. And I don't even want to think what will happen if you cast it on the Cane Rights or the Hex Rights. That will be very, very quick. So here we have one spell. Now we are closing those guys in here. And we have Pit of Shades here. Gathering about 100 guys, I'd say, are inside from 2 units. And as you can see, because those guys were absolutely not in a fight, those 2 units in a bag, that's pretty much all the damage from the spell. So in this case, the Pit of Shades did around 8000 damage. For all those units, 8,000, and yeah, this is pretty substantial for the spell that costs only for 13, 14, 14, 14, 17 overcasted. 7 overcasted version does another armor piercing damage, which we don't need against the spearmen, right? I casted also second Miasma on those guys, and as you can see, yes, they are over. It's all over for those guys. The Empire Knights was defeated by 2 spells. The spears were pretty much only there for, you know, for holding them, and now they are destroying them, chasing them down. I just caught his general because I thought we should be finishing that fight. And I guess we will cast another Vortex because, you know, there is nothing else to cast here. And here we have another Vortex. Same place basically, far away from my guys, taking as many of those guys as possible and breaking. That's all over. So all in all, pretty powerful spells we have here for the Shadow. You can say that Miasma is not very effective, but if you compare them to the spells like Velitite and similar, you would see what I mean. Finally, let's test the Pit of Shade in the most advantageous scenario, and this is Siege scenario. Let's just see how much damage we can deal with this spell. So obviously my enemy will be all over there, and there is lots of great swords here, and we'll be casting Overcasted Pit of Shades, which is 17 mana only for the Overcasted spell. That's pretty low. Yes, I know. We have Purple Son of Xerxes, which is, though you don't have to overcast it, because overcasting does pretty much anything, doesn't do pretty much anything. I can see that already there is a nice group of people gathering right here. We have 9 units with the one on the battlements that will be caught in this vortex. This is perfect situation, as you can imagine, and we've casted similar vortex spell in the perfect situations before, but they were, you know, running away. Look at that, look at the damage that this spell did. That was additional armor piercing damage. And that is 22,000 damage on all those units, from the battlements, from those 2 that were just, glazed, by those units that was absolutely destroyed by this single spell. And in this battle we'll actually cast another, which won't be as effective as before. We are on the cooldown because I would cast it already and that would be pretty crazy. The gate was actually opened. I don't remember destroying it. Those guys went out, so I'm destroying them. We still have here a concentration of guys, but not by far as concentrated as they were before. So I am casting my Pit of Shades and it's not working that well, but it's still dealing 11,000 damage. And as you can see, some of the units running around here are pretty devastated. And this is pretty much it for the damaging spells on the Lord of Shadows. With our castet, I believe if we've waited to the end, he will have close to 160 kills, which, taking into account that most of those kills are, well, most of the damage done by spells are not actually killing people, draining their life, but not actually killing them. That is pretty impressive indeed. As for those spells, like I said before, I do not believe this spell will be effective against very, very situational when you do have a single unit that you really need to take out. Because 13 mana, you can deal 6,000 damage with the Pendulum for the same price, mind you. And the Pendulum will actually wipe out the unit, whereas this will not. This will only make it more vulnerable for 48 seconds. And that's it. So, not really worth it, really. Sorry for repeating myself. This one is also situational. I don't really like the armor debuffs. They are working the best against low armor units, not a high armor unit, which is, not the way I would imagine the armor debuffs would work, but that's the truth. It just, you deal a lot more damage to a unit that goes down from 15 to 0 on from 30 to 15 than you do to a unit that goes down from 120 to 105. There will be very little difference. So it is situational. It is a wide debuff for 31 seconds. I'm not saying it's never very well used, but I like Pendulum better, so for the same price I could do quite a lot of damage with both Pit of Shades or the Pendulum. Then we have, I know, Leadership debuff is actually very, very nice if you can use it correctly. Pit of Shades, as I've mentioned before, we already tested, and the Occam, the Mind Razor, with the area of effect 21 mana, it's not great, but that much damage buff might actually be, worth it if you can cast it at a very precise moment. Like I said, for example, during the charge, if you cast it on those great swords, the meta attack should be enough to damage your enemy quite extensively, because that's a quite wide area of effect. I will do more tests for those buffing spells, but I need time for that. And yeah, we will see that. Also, like I mentioned before, you will see the live lore video, pretty much the same as this one, with analysis of both damaging and healing spells, and not debuffs. And finally, I will be doing today the campaign for the mini campaign for Wood Elves, and I also will be posting today or tomorrow actually, but it's already close to midnight, some multiplayer videos with the Wood Elves. And this is it. I hope you like it. If you did, press like, comment if you will, and see my other videos in Total War Warhammer, but also different games. Thank you for watching and see you later.